Shalom, everybody. Welcome back. We are going to delve into some insights in this very rich and full Parshat VaYechi, the closing of the book of VaYechi. And before we continue, please, if you really enjoy these classes and they talk to you and they have an amazing message from Rabbi Nachman's teachings to you, please spread these classes and share them on your status, etc. All right, we are going to go into today the initial blessing of Yaakov, or a blessing, or really a retort, a rebuke, if you want to say, to Reuven. Reuven was supposed to be the first in everything, being Yaakov Avinu's first drop of seed, and since Yaakov was so holy, so it would make sense that his first son should have all the ma'alot, all the high levels, all the credentials, all the good things. Okay, and in fact, Yaakov Avinu in his talking to Reuven before his passing, he mentions this. Let's look on the psukim here. This is Parshat VaYechi, chapter 49, the verses 1, 2, 3, and even 4. So it's like this. Really, for the first passage we can skip, verse number 2. Hikavtzu v'shimu b'nei Yaakov v'shimu el Yisrael avichem. Gather together and listen, the sons of Yaakov. Listen to your father Israel. So here in verse 3 and 4. Reuven bechori ata. So Yaakov says, Reuven, you are my firstborn. Kochi, my strength. Bereshit oni, and my first drop, believe it or not, of seed. He was 80-something, Yaakov Avinu, and he never had an emission in his life until his first son, Reuven, at the age of 80-something. Yeter se'et ve'yeter az. What does this mean? Let's follow Rashi's interpretation. Yeter, you were supposed to have, additionally, besides being Bechor, the firstborn, okay, which means the birthright, you were supposed to have Yeter se'et. On top of that, se'et. Se'et is, Rashi explains, quoting the Midrash, is the language of Birkat Kohanim. Birkat Kohanim in Hebrew is called Nesiat Kapayim. Nesiat means elevating, Vayisa, because when blessing the Kohanim, they have to raise their hands. So it's called Nesiat Kapayim. So Rashi points out, quoting the Midrash Rabbah, Yeter Se'et, you were supposed to be the Kohen. From you, Reuven, was supposed to come the Kohanim, who will be blessing, raising their hands. Yeter Se'et, you would have had, in addition to being the firstborn, Yoter. Yeter means, in addition, Se'et, raising their hands for blessing like the Kohanim. Ve'yeter Az, and you were supposed to have in addition also Az. Az means boldness. Rashi, quoting the Midrash again, says this refers to the Malkhut. The Malkhut. But we'll see what type of Malkhut. And then the next verse 4 says, you lost all this. You lost all three. The birthright in relationship to inheritance of the land, where the first tribe would be getting a double portion, which in the end happened to Yosef. Yosef became the two tribes, Ephraim and Menashe. So in a way, Yosef had the birthright of getting two portions for his children, for his descendants in the Holy Land. So it's like a firstborn, he gets a double portion, Pishnaim, a double portion. So you lost that. You lost all three. You lost the birthright, the Bechor. You lost the Kehuna, and you lost the Az, the Malkhut, which the Bechor went to Yosef. The Se'et went to Levi, the Kohanim from Aharon, from Levi. And Az went to Yehuda, David HaMelech, etc. Why? Pachaz kamayim. This word pachaz means many things. It's amazing how the Midrash opens it up to an acronym, the Pei, Chet, Zayin, to many interpretations. But the Pshat means you were quick in haste like water. And because you were quick in haste like water runs fast, you can't stop water if it's pouring, right? Al totar, you will not have this yeter. The word yeter and yeter, here totar is the same root. You will not have that addition of all three, of being the Bachor. You'll be firstborn in chronology, that's it. You're the first son, Reuven, that's it. But no, you won't have the Bechor, birthright, inheritance to the Holy Land. You will not have the Kehuna, and you'll not have the Malchut. Al totar. Why? Why this punishment? Because by being fast, you did something wrong. What did you do wrong? Ki alita mishkeve avicha, because you went on alita, on the bed mishkevei, the bed of your father, like Rashi explains, you moved, Yaakov saying to his son Reuven, you moved my bed after Rachel Imenu, who was the Akeret Habayit, the main wife in which Yaakov worked hard 14 years for, was Rachel Imenu. He worked 7 years really, but in total the whole slavery, if you want to call it, and workmanship for Lavan was mainly for Rachel. Okay? So after Rachel passed away, Yaakov moved his bed into the tent of Bilhah. By him moving his tent, meaning his main sleeping would be in that tent. So initially it was in Rachel, and then instead of going to logically the sister, even the older sister Rachel Leah, Yaakov put it in the Shifcha, the maidservant's tent, Bilhah. She was the maidservant of Rachel, and he couldn't handle that. Rashi quotes the Midrash that Reuven said, "What? It's not enough that already my mother had to bend to my aunt Rachel. Now my mother will be in competition with the maidservant Bilhah," and he couldn't hold himself back. He moved the bed into the tent of Leah. So Yaakov is rebuking him for that, and you're not going to gain what you were supposed to gain because of this, right? Az chilalta yetzu Allah, you desecrated the bedding. Allah went up. That means you lost it. So there's a lot of questions here, just on a deeper level. What is Rachel and what is Leah? We see the qualifications, the characteristics of Rachel and Leah reflected into the name that the Arizal gives and the Zohar gives to what's called Tikkun Chatzot, the midnight lament. There is a mitzvah, it's a halacha, believe it or not, in the beginning of the Shulchan Aruch, that every Jew who the fear of heaven touches their heart should wake up early enough to mourn over the destruction of the temple. This mourning is done by reciting certain dirges and paragraphs of prayers and psalms. Okay, so it's broken into two parts. There's what's called Tikkun Rachel and Tikkun Leah. Tikkun Rachel is the first part of Tikkun Chatzot, which is the heavy-duty dirges of mourning, phrases from the book of Eicha, Yirmiyahu, etc., books which talk about the mourning of the temple. It's heavy-duty mourning is Tikkun Rachel. Tikkun Leah is all psalms, and they're all happy psalms, and they're good uplifting psalms, because that's what the book of Tehillim is. There's maybe 1 or 2 chapters which talk about sins and King David asking to forgive for the sins. But in the main, Tikkun Leah is more upbeat and more elevating, okay? Tikkun Rachel is said on nights of days where in the following day there will be tachanun. In other words, in the synagogue, there's no special occasion, so we do the normal, what's called tachanun, which means it's a day that we can mourn. And the mourning is reflected into Rachel, okay? Rachel represents the idea of mourning. Like with the verse reads, Rachel mevaka al baneha, Rachel is crying over her sons. The idea of Rachel is that of crying and mourning. Even though Leah, she initially cried because she was scared she would fall in the hands of Esav. That's before she got married. But once she was married, she was the happiest woman, Leah. Okay? And from Leah came the upbeat tribes. You have Levi, the Kohanim. You have Yehuda, David HaMelech. Okay, the upbeat, happy, upbeat attitude is Leah. Rachel is more into the mourning and the suffering and the pain. She even died at childbirth. She died when Binyamin was called. She called him Ben Oni, the son of my mourning, whereas Yaakov called him Binyamin. It's interesting to see what Rav Nosson says in Likutey Moharan, that Rachel thought, the main way to bring Mashiach is through crying and mourning. That's why she called him Ben Oni. Binyamin, who the temple will be built in his plot. You know, it's like the Gemara says, Mizbeach bechelko shel toref. The actual altar of the temple is in the portion of Toref, a term of Binyamin. Binyamin had the actual altar of the Mizbeach of the temple in his part. Okay? And that being the main functioning of the temple all year round. And she saw it be destroyed. So she called him Ben Oni, meaning that the way to restore the temple, the final temple, when Mashiach's coming, will be through the Jews crying, getting up at midnight and crying for the temple. Yaakov said otherwise. Yaakov called him Binyamin, saying, it's true that a Jew has to mourn, M-O-U-R-N, has to mourn and cry, but that has to be part of the day, a small part, not the main part, has to be the minimum part, the smaller part of one's day, of one's life, because the main thing that's going to bring Mashiach, the main thing that's going to bring the temple is Simcha. Keep a Simcha Tetzeo, with joy will come out, okay? So yamin is right. The right connotes chesed. Chesed, kindness, connotes light and joy, etc. So he said, it's true we have to mourn, but the main thing is the simcha. So now Rachel, her whole attitude is that of mourning, of within the suffering and the pain, getting somewhere. And yes, Yaakov really wanted to connect to her because he knew that no pain, no gain. That's the way really to get advancement in life, is through the attitude of Rachel, okay? So now Leah, on the other hand, Leah is that of joy, of simcha. It's a higher level. It's a level of light, okay? The Hafla'ah, there's a book in Halacha called Hafla'ah, very, very deep book by Rav Horvitz, Rav Pinchas Horvitz. He writes there, in like the laws of Gittin and Ketubot, etc., that it's common by Ashkenazim, believe it or not, that a name that doesn't have a hey in it, they have the tendency to say, for example, Rachel, they go, Rochele, Shimale, Nosele, okay? Dudile, they have, they always add a le at the end. The le is similar to Leah, you have a hey there. The main part of Leah is the hey, which the Arizal explains is a hey of chesed. So Leah is more of chesed and light. And you see all the names she gave for her sons are thanksgiving and giving thanks to Hashem. Even though Rachel also gave names of thanksgiving, it's true, right? Yosef Hashem ben Acher, Benjamin, fine, Naphtali, okay, the names. But Leah was more of Hoda'ah, Yehuda, right? Yilaveli Ishi, I have good things coming to me. So Leah is more of a name of happiness and joy, okay? So what's the difference? Based on Likutey Moharan lesson 24. The difference is like this. Rachel refers to the hard work of elevating the holiness and happiness trapped in the exile. Elevating it. How do you elevate it? By going deep into the kelipot, going deep into the domain of sadness, and from there working upwards, building up. That's the work of Rachel. Leah is the result. Leah is already the cash pot, the jackpot, already the lottery. Everything is amazing. It's called Geula mentality, the Geula mode. That everything is amazing, everything is light. That's Leah mentality. That's why Tikkun Leah is said almost every night. Even days you don't say Tachanun. Most of the days we do say Tikkun Leah from the Tikkun Chatzot, which is just psalms of praises, okay? It's the second half of Tikkun Chatzot, which is a happy, upbeat part. That's every night. Tikkun Rachel is specifically on days where there's sadness and mourning that's allowed, so we do the Tikkun Rachel. Fine. So also, Rachel and Leah, you see the idea that Rachel is more in the earth in the morning, crying in order to get out. The goal is also Simcha, Bezat Hashem. She had a son, Yosef, who merited his level because he was always happy, like we said in our last class of the Parshat Vayigash, that Yosef was so successful because of his joy. That's what the Midrash says. So, and he came from who? From Rachel, showing that pain and suffering is a payoff. In other words, working through difficulty and darkness and coming from out of that domain, it's a payoff. You come to genuine simcha, okay? But it's hard work. Leah, on the other hand, is the result already, the high joy, the simcha, in the Geula mentality, okay? So now, when Rachel passed away, Reuven thought, okay, she passed away, so the job of working in the darkness that Yaakov Avinu was busy doing, finding the kelipot, going into the domain of evil, of it's called the chamber of exchanges, Heichalat Murot, and from there to elevate holiness, he thought once Rachel passed away, the job is finished. So now, the second part, the reward, the jackpot, put your bed in the tent of Leah. Now it's just enjoying, ripping off Hazorim Bedima, Hazorim Bedima, Berina Yiktsoru. Those who invest in pain and in sadness, they will reap the benefits, the profits out of joy. So Reuven thought, that's a verse from Psalms, right? Shemalot. So Reuven thought, that's it. Rachel passed away. Her job is finished. In other words, her attitude that you, Yaakov, had to work, that's why you married her, that's no longer needed. Now, join to Leah. And Yaakov was indicating no. He took his tent. He put it in the tent of Bilhah. Bilhah being the shivcha, the maidservant of Rachel. Meaning that Bilhah was an extension more of Rachel's job. In other words, the work of being in the mud and the shmutz and working in the darkness and from there connecting to Hashem and working on building to be besimcha from the darkness, which is Rachel's attitude, That was continued with Bilha. The word Bilha, in a sense, is connected to Bilbul, a confusion. Okay? It's like but also means levalot, to wither. You feel like you're being withered in that domain. And Yaakov put his tent there to indicate the job is not finished. I have to continue elevating sparks and holy sparks that are trapped in the kelipot to bring them back out. And Reuven was upset. He was shocked. Okay? He's saying, but the job is done. It's now, if Rachel is gone, why are you extending it? It should be finished. So he didn't have that patience needed to believe that the tikkun is not yet finished, and he took the tent and moved it to Leah. It's now Geula mode. And Yaakov Avinu was so upset, like he's now rebuking him in the Parsha. Why is it so weird? What did he do so wrong? The idea is Yaakov's whole work, Yaakov is someone, the Rashi says, Yaakov lo met. Yaakov never died. So that's on the Pshat. That means that he was just embalmed when he passed away at 137, whatever. Sorry, 147. He was embalmed, but he didn't die, okay? On a deeper level, it means Yaakov Avinu personifies the tzaddikim who are always working to elevate holiness from the kelipot, from the evil forces. That's the idea of Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov lo met, or he's emet. He's not met, he's emet. He's truth, meaning he's always looking to transform sheker into emet, to go deep into the kelipot, elevate more holy sparks. That was his job. Reuven wanted already Geula mode, and he said, no, it's time for Leah. That's enough already. Enough of the mourning. Get into the simcha mode, only, exclusively. Don't have to go into mourning mode a day. So he was punished for that. And what was the idea? Is that he wasn't patient. Yes, eventually Leah is going to be the key. Right now, until Mashiach comes, we're under what's called the jurisdiction or the rulership of Mashiach ben Yosef, who will precede Mashiach ben David. Mashiach ben Yosef being a descendant of Rachel, meaning the attitude of the tzaddikim and holiness that we have in exile is that of working hard from the kelipot and working upwards to get out. As opposed to Mashiach ben David, when Mashiach finally comes, the anointed one, we all agree, Mashiach ben David, he's the goal, okay, and he's a descendant of Leah. So Leah attitude, mentality is that of the time of Mashiach, okay? And Reuven was so anxious to already activate the Geula mode, that's why he acted the way he did. And it's a moral lesson for everybody. Don't push it. Don't push it. Take it easy. Be patient. You do your part and don't force an issue. We see in history many tzaddikim who tried to force an issue, they lost out in the end. When people try to force something, you try to work for it hard, you see that it backfires. The main attitude is patience. The final geula is that of patience. They say the first two temples correspond to the idea of matzah, and the third temple corresponds to the concept of chametz. Meaning what? The first geula redemptions, we need to work fast. That's the idea of the fast redemptions. But the final redemption will take a long wait that we're waiting. This galut of Edom, it's taking a long time. Like chametz takes a long time to ferment. It takes time. And that's fermentation. So we're waiting. And this is what's needed for the final Mashiach. Don't be dochek hasha'ah. Don't force the situation. Just zorem, go with the flow. Take it easy. Do what you're supposed to do. But don't jump in too early. Because if you do that, you're going to regret it. Like we see many tzaddikim, many good people, they jumped in, whatever it was. They felt to go to the next level. They just jumped in when it wasn't the right time to jump in. There are times, yes, you need to jump in, and heaven indicates that to you. But most of the time, they want you to wait. But the person, because he's too overexcited and overwhelmed by the light, he feels, no, I have to jump in, we have to go forward. And then he goes forward, and he loses everything, God forbid. So the attitude that Reuven lost was because he jumped in. And he lost out on the Bechor, he lost out on the Kehuna, he lost out on the Oz. Rav Nosson explains, and Rabbi Nachman explains beautifully, the idea of Bechor, firstborn, is in other words the first level, the first initial level of birth, where a person is facing the first challenge of life. That's the initial stage where every Jew starts off in the darkness. To come out of that, that's the idea of a Bechor, that the firstborn, the birthright, comes out from the darkness into light. A firstborn, okay? That's like the initial stage that every Jew has to start in elevating the holiness from the evil. That's number one. Number two, Rabbi Nachman teaches when you succeed in elevating holiness track by being besimcha, which is the idea of a firstborn, because when there's a firstborn, everybody's happy. Everybody's happy to have a firstborn. Even though we do Pidyon Ben, everybody's happy when a boy is born and it's a firstborn, because it's a lot of activated simcha here. The simcha that finally from darkness to come to light, that's a big light. Okay, that's the idea of a firstborn. And then that leads to, Rabbi Nachman teaches, lesson 24, the idea of the hands, Birkat Kohanim. The place of bracha is the hands. The Kohanim, the verse reads by Aharon, Vayisa Aharon et yadav el ha'am, Vayvarchem. Vayisa, and Aaron elevated, like in this pasuk here, Yeter Se'et, he elevated his hands to the nation and he blessed them. Rabbi Nachman shows that the bracha is associated with the hands. So that's the idea of Yeter Se'et. And Oz is Malkhut, but complete Malkhut. Rashi says that Oz, boldness, chutzpah, holiness, is Malkhut. But Rav Nosson explains Oz also refers to joy. True joy is called Oz. Oz v'chedva bimkomo. Joy and delight is in Hashem's place. That joy is connected to simcha. And that's complete simcha that a person gets to as a result of the bracha that he activates because of the Bechor. So in other words, these three, Bechor, Se'et, and Az, are three levels of activating, by elevating holiness and joy trapped in the evil, going upwards. Reuven lost all of this. Why? Because he was pachaz kamayim, because he was so lachpoz, he was so quick and acted hastily, and because of that he lost it everything. And that's why Rabbi Nachman teaches lesson 24, that the key for activating all this is Keter. The concept of Keter means you have to wait and wait and wait until they open the doors for a person. And this is what Reuven was missing technically, and it went to three other tribes: Yosef, Yehuda, and Levi. We should be zoche to learn from the Parsha and to take it easy, and by taking it easy in life, to then reap all the benefits and all the brachot. Shabbat shalom and all the best.